Hello and welcome to today's show. You are listening to The Digital Matrix, where Kurt talks to some of the brightest minds in the industry about the most advanced technology IT solutions available today to help your business thrive.
Today's episode is brought to you by General Data Tech at www.gdt.com. You can also email the show at podcast@gdt.com. And now, to start the show from his secret podcast studio in City Center in Houston, Texas, here's your host, Kurt Nordquist.
And welcome back to the show today on GDT's The Digital Matrix. I'm your host, Kurt Nordquist, also Executive Director of Global Alliances here at GDT, coming to you from our headquarters in Dallas, Texas. Today, my guest on the program is Andy Crocker. Hell of a guy. Known him for quite a few years now. Super supporter of GDT, and he's with one of our top security partners in Fortinet. Andy is a systems engineer, channel manager. He brings a wealth of knowledge around the area of today's cybersecurity threats and how Fortinet and GDT can help you mitigate your company's risks through great products, engineering, expertise, great service. It's the complete package. So Andy, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us on the show today. And guess what? You're the inaugural interview here in the Digital Matrix. You're the first of many, my man. So really appreciate you talking. Join us today. You're going to be the answer to a bar bet at some point in time.
No, it's great, man. I've been super excited since we talked about this last week. It's going to be a great time and really looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. And just recently, I received a communication from Fortinet, and we've shared the announcement that Fortinet has granted GDT the status of a super regional partner. That's outstanding. You guys are going to manage us nationally. So for that, we're certainly appreciative. I know a lot of hard work, energy, and effort on both sides to get that done. So thank you.
Yeah, we're excited about you guys becoming a super regional. I mean, you're growing leaps and bounds. You're growing across the country. We needed to have a dedicated team specifically for GDT to help grow the business, grow the relationship. It's really going to be a lot of fun as we see a lot of good momentum moving forward.
Excellent. Well, Andy, why don't you just give us a little bit about yourself. What is it that you do for Fortinet?
So cool. I've been in this industry for right at 4 decades. That's a long time. Seen a lot of things change, seen a lot of things grow. Right now, I manage a team of 10 people that are channel SEs. They are dedicated to partners like GDT. And really what they're tasked to do is help grow from a technical perspective. We want our partners, such as GDT, to get network security experts, certifications. We want them to have the specializations. We want you to be able to grow and not only sell the solutions, but install them and support them.
Outstanding. So last week, you and I had a conversation. You talked about something about the convergence of network and security, that nobody really knows where the edge is anymore. What did you mean by that?
So it's a good question. And when you think about network convergence, what's happening, and again, I go back to the fact that I've been in this industry for 4 decades. Even as short as 20 years ago, everybody knew where their edge was because you had a data center, you may have had remote sites. We knew that. With the proliferation of COVID and multiple other things that's happened throughout the last few years, people are now working from anywhere, which means I'm not going to the office anymore. I'm working from who knows where. Now, the problem with that is your network team takes care of moving packets from one place to another. And that's great. They do a fantastic job. But now the problem is, how do you secure those packets? How do you secure that data? And because there is that, at one point, 2 different silos, networking, moving packets, and then security, protecting the packets. Those 2 now are merging into one. And it's primarily because we don't really know where the edge is. The edge is ambiguous at best because it could be at Starbucks. It could be at anywhere. I didn't mean to pick on Starbucks, but it's a lot of people work from there. So when you think about that challenge of the convergence, it's making that move from a silo of moving packets and a silo of security and meshing them together.
And this is all really as a result of the new hybrid workspace that really came out of the slowdown around the pandemic. So, I mean, this is everywhere.
This is everywhere. And there's not a business today, not a single organization that doesn't face that.
So let's talk more specifically about Fortinet and the solutions that you guys have to, deliver around these particular issues.
Okay. So the first thing I would start with is the fact that in Old times, you would use a router to route packets. And then you would use another device such as a stateful firewall to provide that security. What we're offering is one single device, one single GUI that you can actually manage both at the same time. So instead of having 2 or 3 or 4 different products, different screens, different GUIs to have to manage, you manage it from one. And you can see end to end, which is a really important piece. And Kurt, you and I talked a little bit about one of the things that we do is a Fortinet security fabric. And what that means is it's a full integration of the products and the solutions that enable you to have that visibility and control wherever the edge may be and wherever it could be. Now, what's interesting, Kurt, and you and I talked about this, is Gartner's back to come out with a Magic Quadrant called Cybersecurity Mesh Architecture. Really, all it is having that ability to converge the network and security and to be able to have a single, let's call it pane of glass, that you can manage all points of your network and be able to have that complete convergence.
So brand new Gartner Quadrant, that's got to be more exciting. Like we're juggling a lot of those to begin with, but where do you find yourself positioned there?
Well, it's a good question. It hasn't really been the actual Magic Quadrant has not been released, but they're talking about it. There's a lot of data about it. And I would encourage listeners that hear this podcast to maybe use whatever search engine you like to use and just search on that cybersecurity mesh architecture because it is very powerful.
Very good, very good. So I want to pivot a little bit. As we listen to all of the news, what's going on, Fortune 1000 companies are being hit by ransomware. So let's talk about ransomware just a tad. Such a hot topic. We've been hearing about high-profile breaches inside Fortune 1000 companies for years, and it's only getting worse.
Yes, it just continues to get worse. Every day I get additional emails and new emails about this company and that company and this company. I mean, the list is growing. And Kurt, I think a lot of people, a lot of organizations may think, well, I'm too small or I don't have what they're looking for. And that's just the wrong mindset because everybody is, if they have not been hit, they will be hit.
Well, here's some data I found that will actually corroborate that. There was a survey done by an organization, the Psychotic Centrify. They conducted this last year, for instance, and here's some of the figures. 83% of ransomware victims said they had no choice but to pay the ransom in order to get back access to their data. And more than 90% of them said that they had allocated a special budget for fighting these ransomware threats. How do you guys at Fortinet address the ransomware threat felt by so many organizations today?
That's a good question. So there's a couple of ways in which we do that. The one I would be really want to point out is the FortiGuard Labs, which is our threat research arm. We have already detected somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 zero-day threats and having that ability to send those signatures out. But that's number one. Number two is having your vulnerabilities always up to date. Keeping those CVEs and keeping them up to date. And I was reading an article just this morning about how many organizations do not keep up with the vulnerabilities. They got old systems and they just don't come back and renew them.
My guest today is Andy Crocker with Fortinet. For more information, you can go to www.fortinet.com. So, Andy, really no guarantee you will get your data back, right?
Correct.
These bad actors could still sell or leak your stolen data. I've got some other statistics here. 51% paid their ransomware with no data loss. Now, this is from a 2021 study. 46% regained access to most of their data, but not all. And 3% even paid, but got absolutely nothing back. Now, different studies have different numbers, but the idea was the same. There's no guarantee paying the ransomware will solve your problem. And not only that, it also encourages more attacks if you pay the ransom. Because if you're known to be a victim, companies that pay once will pay again.
That's exactly right. Once you've paid that ransom the first time, not only could you be hit by the same ransomware attack, but other bad actors will know about the fact that you've already paid for that ransom, and they will attack you again and again. So just because you paid it that one time, if you were fortunate enough to get your data back, that's fantastic. That's great. But it's not a guarantee that your data that got stolen is not out on the dark web somewhere where somebody else can get it. That's number one. Number two, everybody else on that dark web knows you paid. And if they know you paid, and let's face it, Kurt, why do people do anything? It's all about money.
It's all about the money.
And if I can hit you again and again and collect more money, I'm all over it.
Well, it's kind of like you go out and if you get your TV stolen or whatnot, you buy a new TV, you bring it into the house, you box it, you put it up, you put the box outside. All you're doing is advertising, hey, I got a new TV set.
That's absolutely correct. And that's true of pretty much everything. Let's just tell people that, hey, I've got something you want.
So paying ransom has other implications. Not only do you have the financial costs of having to get your data back, and then you got reputational hits as well, but it also fuels other innovation. I mean, there's other ransomware, these exploits that go to funding other crimes like drugs, weapons, and human trafficking. They take that money and they put it into other lines of business. They
do. And it even gets worse than that. I mean, it can come down to actually putting a hit on somebody's life. It could come down to a lot of different things. It's really frightening if you think about the full impact of what ransomware does.
Well, I read this the other day, and you guys are going to get a giggle out of this, but in April 2015, Fortinet provided some threat intelligence to Interpol, right, the international agency, in order to help apprehend the ringleader of several online scams based in Nigeria. I mean, who hasn't heard or seen that? So I think many listening out today can certainly relate to that and probably tipping their hat to you right now for helping to go get those guys.
Absolutely. And again, keep in mind that was 2015. There's been many, many other events that's occurred like that. The one thing, again, I would encourage everyone to do is if you go to FortiGuard.com, www.FortiGuard.com, there are multiple stories over the years of things just like that. Fortinet plays a major role in protecting organizations today.
Well, Andy, I want to thank you for being on the Digital Matrix today, providing your insights. Always good to see you, and see you around the GDT offices soon.
Very good.
All right, folks. If you have been a victim of ransomware or feel like you have been attacked, contact your rep at GDT or email the show at podcast@gdt.com. We can bring the right experts to the table, discuss what you have, or even more immediately what you don't have, and how Fortinet and GDT can work together with your team and get your organization protected against the threats out there. For Andy Crocker, I'm Kurt Nordquist, and this is the Digital Matrix. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Matrix with Kurt Nordquist. For more information on the technologies discussed on today's show, you can email Kurt at podcast@gdt.com. Please be sure to follow us at The Digital Matrix for more cool tech content on future podcasts.